I'm Jonathan J.P. Parker, and I am currently the stage manager and guitar tech for the Fray. And I've been touring with bands. Well, I've been a guitar tech since 1990, and I got into the business because, once again, I'm a guitar player who at the time couldn't pay the bills, my band had just moved to Chicago in 1990, trying to make it, and I was hanging out at a place called Wrigley Side, a bar right next to Wrigley Field, and there was an open mic there, and the guys from the Freddie Jones band used to come down all the time, and they were just signed to Capricorn Records, and they were about to go out on their first big tour, and they were going to open for Big Head Todd and the Monsters, but they didn't have a crew. So they asked me, they said, "Hey, would you want to come out as our guitar tech?" And I said, "Sure, what does it pay?" And they told me, and next thing I knew, I was on tour with the Freddie Jones band, and it's been non-stop ever since.
Were you good at setting up and intonating your own guitar and things like that, or was that something you learned as you went along?
I did. I was kind of self-taught on all that. Like the minute I found out I was going to be a guitar tech, I went out and got, the recent Hal Leonard book or whatever on, how to tech and how to fix amps. But like I said, I had electronics background. I was setting up my own guitars at the time. So I had experience with instruments. I just didn't have experience touring.
Gotcha. So you go on the road. Did you start off in a van, or did you start in a bus, or how was it? How did it start for you?
Well, I was lucky. When I first started touring with the Freddie Jones band, it was their first bus tour. So my first tour was on a 1969 Silver Eagle, actually a bus that used to belong to Joe Walsh, decked out with the plush carpeting on the walls, shag carpet everywhere. But then, of course, we did go back to a van. We couldn't afford to stay on a bus all the time. But yeah, I was pretty fortunate in that respect.
Oh, that's cool.
So while I was with Wilco, I was a combination guitar tech, stage manager, and production manager. And as stage manager, that was pretty much just consisting of the show, everything to do with the show, the entire stage, checking all the guitars and amps, setting the various tones for the different instruments. And the difference between being a stage manager and a production manager, at least at that level, the production manager lines up everything and arranges the tour buses, the trucking, if there's gear to be rented for that specific show. So the stage manager position would be more just the actual stage. Production manager is more of an overview, the big picture, if you will, lining up anything to do with the tour as well.
Getting you from one place to the next on a daily basis of a tour.
That is correct. Yeah. Even, lining up the tour bus, getting everything, the big picture.
Right. And you're in charge of the rest of the crew as well?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, cool. Let's talk about the Fray a little bit. You've been on the road with them for what? How many years?
It'll be 3 years coming up here in July. Regarding the Fray's backline and their guitars and amps, David Welsh, our lead player, currently, he is playing an old, the Purple Anniversary Vox, and he complements that with an old Ampeg Gemini amp, runs an AB box, so, most of the time plays both amps at the same time. And David plays, he has an SG Junior, an SG Standard. We just bought, at the advice of our engineer Warren, we just got Dave Fender Tele Deluxe, which is amazing. He also plays an old Fender 12-string electric. He plays a Jerry Jones baritone. He's basically switching guitars on almost every song. And same thing on Dave's pedal board. He's the vintage guy. He doesn't need a lot to get a great sound. He uses the Holy Grail reverb. He has the full tone, full drive pedal. And he also uses a TC Electronics analog delay, which is just amazing. And that's about all he needs to make that guitar sing. Our other guitar player, Joe, who also splits time on acoustic, he also plays a Gibson J45. And on his electric rig, Joe plays a divided by 13 amp. I believe it's the FTR, I can't remember the model number, but it's the piggyback model of the divided by 13. and an old vintage Fender Twin Reverb. And Joe's main guitar right now is a Gibson Les Paul TV, and he also plays a 1977 Fender Tele Deluxe. And they both have, you know, a couple SGs as backup, but we've really fallen in love with the Fender Tele Deluxe because of the humbucking pickups. It doesn't sound like the traditional Tele sound, which is kind of twangy. And then our bass player Jeremy, he plays just a standard Ampeg SVT 810, the classic model, and he plays a Fender Mustang bass and a Fender Precision bass, which are both 1978 basses. And Isaac, our singer, Isaac Slade, even though he's the piano player, he is a phenomenal guitarist, and on a few songs, one of the new songs called Happiness in particular, Isaac also plays acoustic. He plays a Gibson J45, capoed at the second position. We play the EJ17 medium gauge on our acoustic guitars, both live and in the studio, and I outfit all their electric guitars with Diodario strings as well. Joe King plays the XL110s, and Dave, our lead player, David Welsh, he plays XL115Ws, that's with the wound G string, and that's also both for live and studio. We just love the consistency of Diodario strings. They're amazing. They're not too bright and bitey out of the package. With a little bit of sweat and the way I stretch them out, they're nice and mellow for the show. I can change strings 3 hours before the show, give them a good tug, retune them, maybe do that process one more time, and they are rock solid. They'll stay in tune throughout the whole show.
Being a roadie, guitar tech, production manager, tour manager, stage manager out for the past 18 years, I'm sure you have some pretty good war stories.
I do have a few war stories. One that comes to mind, the Freddie Jones Band, we were playing the Allman Brothers Family Picnic down in Georgia, and about halfway through our set, we were playing up on a stage riser. The stage dropped about 18 inches. Because whoever set it up hadn't locked everything in properly. So that was a bit scary. Our monitor engineer, when the stage dropped, his world didn't drop, but half his gear fell into the gap. So he's standing there trying to hold on to the gear so it wouldn't fall. Everything fell eventually.
Did the amps all fall over?
Yeah, pretty much everything took a spill. The show came to a screeching halt. And they lifted the stage back up. It took about an hour and a half.
Oh my God.
We continued on. And they were so apologetic, but by that time nobody got hurt, so we were just kind of laughing about it.